We live in times where the next step in front of us is not always clear. There are times where, even when we've had the next step planned and the steps after that, something changes in our environment and in the world in which we are playing in, the arena in which we play in, the team that we're on, or the company that we're in, or the industry that we have known for years. Something comes and it shifts all that. And as that is the case, it's become increasingly important to me to see how can we play in a space that doesn't focus on what the very next steps are, but gives us more of a chance to be able to navigate whatever comes our way. There's an element here as this continues where I'm seeing it for myself a lot. Right now, I have to go ahead and just do this really quickly. It's really interesting starting out these conversations these ways, because I come on and I have in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to share something powerful. It's going to be a distinction. The distinction can stand alone on its own. It sets context for our conversations, and it also has it's something that will really be meaningful. The thing about it is that there's an element of me that has resisted coming in and saying, hey, this is exactly what we're going to talk about before we get into the conversation, and so on and so forth. Part of what allows me to really serve people is to be present in the moment. And I can feel that in this moment. What I was feeling here, and I'm just going to speak to this right now. What I was feeling was an element of responsibility and posture. How can I sound? How can I bring something up that can really feel meaningful in this moment? Knowing that, like, literally right before I hit record, I'm like, we'll just see what comes out. Knowing that there wasn't anything that was necessarily there, but wanting to play with that, maybe because my own framework, my own structure, the way that this is how it's supposed to look like. This is how leadership is supposed to look like. Right now, at the time of this recording, we're in the middle of COVID-19 really is making its approach onto into the U.S. And the elements about that is that I had been out in Singapore when it came about a month and a half earlier, and it felt more removed. It felt more like we were figuring it all out. And there's an element of now 6 weeks later, and look, with it, there were challenging times. Things around me were changing. People were becoming more, I won't say closed, but they were closing themselves off to being around with one another. And what was interesting was being an expat living out here. It almost felt like the expat community wasn't really responding as quickly as everyone else was around here. What's been interesting now is that it's come to the U.S. and it's been a couple of different things have been happening. I've noticed the levels of anxiety that have come through the U.S. and I'm like, and being on the outside a little bit now, I can see it as it's happening. I can see it as it's happening, and these are also circles that I'm actually a part of. And so I can see how ubiquitous it is. It's not to say that it wasn't here in Singapore, but I think that as an expat, I had a chance to be like more removed from some of the ongoing conversations around it, or some of the ways that people were, some of the media and some of the things that were around it. Now that it's coming to some of the expats' home countries and they're talking to their friends and so on and so forth, I'm experiencing it differently. I think the element of that feels relevant for this conversation. One, I think I needed to make sure that I was showing up with you here, as opposed to like being on, like, posturing in some way. But I think the other side of it here has been really a call to leadership here. I have found the most confronting part of all this for me has been how am I showing up in the midst of this here? There are global changes taking place. There are elements, there are global externalities that are happening to so many of us. And I'm finding myself asking myself the question, how am I going to be a leader through this period of time? And it's interesting because I use the word play very deliberately, but in this case here, it's almost like there's a sense of like I'm playing as a leader, being a young child with toys and we're like, this is what a leader does. Yeah. uh, and then there's actually stepping up and simply being the leader. And this experience has really gotten me to slow down and to examine what does that look like for me? And more like, and what does that look like for me is more of it has more to it than it might seem. It's like almost as though there's a definition of leadership that I haven't actually chosen to put on for myself, a definition of success, a definition of what the elements of that is, and a definition of how I show up that is uniquely what I can bring to the table, not what other people do. And so I'm playing with that. I'm sitting in this place of really discovering that, and you're going to see it here through the videos that we have, through the tribe conversations that we come together with. There's a number of that's really happening. I don't want to hide that from you. I don't want to come and pretend that I'm already on the other side trying to tell you how to do it. I want to be real with you. I'm in it. This is what happens when you live in such turbulent times, in such challenging and ambiguous and complex times. I cannot, in good conscience, pretend that everything's together, but I do know I got it. I just know that right now I'm willing to be messy in order to really come out on the other side. So I'm going to offer that to you and just be in this space with you. By the time you watch this whole thing might have completely blown over, or there will probably be a new thing that's causing new turbulence and new volatility, and we'll be playing from that place. But I want to document what's happening right now in my own process through this year so we can continue to learn and grow with one another. Yeah, I can just feel myself just being able to sink into this conversation more, being able to have access to more of whatever is necessary to really be of service. But I can feel myself allowing myself to let this stage be this stage, to let myself be in the stage of messiness, experimentation, exploration, but be in it, not to research it from the side, not to observe it from afar, but to actually be in the game, be making my impact and be showing up in the world while figuring this out. I'm excited for this because I know that this is almost like a crucible to help me accelerate that which I was working towards. So let's see where this all goes. As you bring it for yourself here, I'm going to ask you the question here. Where in your world can you just let go? Take that breath and just be, and let it come from there.
We're just getting started. Click on the link below to watch the full conversation and go to Niiamahashong.com/tribe to get additional resources and exclusive invitation to tribe-only events. Journey on. Hey, Niiamah here. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, and then go ahead and leave one of your insights from today's video in the comments below. If you're looking to take this deeper, you can go and watch another video, or you can go to Niiamah.com/tribe to get exclusive invitation to our tribe member only events. I'll see you soon.